Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, this is an old video. Andrew Gold and Kinsey Schofield. Now, mind you, a lot of people now have a lot more information. So a lot of people don't look at things in the same way that they used to. So I'm simply going to share some of the excerpts from what Mike Rinder has said. I'm going to try to be respectful only of the fact that Mike Rinder is very ill right now, and that's the only reason I'm going to be a little more soft than usual.
It starts with a very thrilling escape scene. What a lot of people probably don't know about Scientology, who aren't familiar with it, is that you would have to escape because most religions and things, you go to church on a Sunday, then you go home. How does one escape? Why does one have to escape?
Well, there's sort of two types of Scientologists. There is the people who work for the organization, and then there is the people that pay the money to get the services from the organization. Those people who work for the organization are then split into two categories: the people that work in local Scientology organizations, and then the members of the C organization, which is sort of the inner core elite of Scientology that live and...
So funny to me that everyone categorizes, like if they were in Scientology, that the Sea Org is elite, because there's nothing elite about it.
And work communally, and in reference to the name of the book, sign a billion-year contract as Sea Org
like children
members to commit themselves, essentially committing themselves for eternity to achieving the aims of Scientology. That inner core, the C organization, which I was a member of for more than 30 years, is...
Got to get the self-promotion in there.
A very, very controlled environment. At the upper echelons, at the very top of Scientology, the facilities that one lives and works in are, patrolled by security forces and have cameras everywhere and are...
Everything's in third person. Do you guys notice that?
Super secure locations that it is difficult to get away from. And if you have enough intention, you can pull it off. Plenty of people have. I'm not the first person who has escaped the Sea organization.
But guess who doesn't escape? Guess who doesn't escape, you guys? Guess who never has the opportunity to escape? Children.
But there are enough barriers, both physical and even more mental, to the escape that most people don't. Even if they have a desire to get away or don't want to be there anymore, they can't figure out how to pull it off. They're worried about what they're told about what the outside world is like, that, it's a terrible, horrible... someone important, then a team is sent to go get them back. And usually that consists of someone from the security force, and then whoever it is that might be what is called in Scientology an opinion leader or an influencer for that person. It might be their wife. It might be a child. It might be their boss.
It might be a child.
Whoever it is, they're sent out to persuade the person to come back. And it's successful more often than not, unfortunately.
Fair gaming, right?
Well, fair gaming is a slightly different thing, Andrew. But yes, that falls under the category. But fair gaming is a term that is developed by Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, and he originally said that the enemies of Scientology effectively are fair game. You can do anything to them. You can trick them, you can sue them, you can lie to them, you can beat them up. There is no holds barred on what gets done to seek to destroy an enemy of Scientology.
Kind of like all those videos that Mike Rinder made, even given as sickly as he is, attempting to defame Aaron Smith-Levin and many others. I didn't watch all of them because I just simply did not want to. Kind of like that, Mike Rinder? Like the videos that you sent out about Aaron Smith-Levin? Even though you can barely speak because you're so ill?
And Hubbard laid out all these methods of how you go about doing this. He wrote them down. Crazily enough, they are written down, and they describe how you harass someone, hire private investigators, frame them, get them fired from their jobs, all of these sort of things.
Kill their pets?
It doesn't say that specifically, but anything goes, literally. And Scientology...
I kind of wish we could just see more of his facial expressions. I'm going to try not to be too cruel, because sometimes you have to take the high road, even when you know someone is doing things that are immoral, unethical, cruel, unlawful, illegal. You have to be the better person.
Today says, fair game? Oh, that was canceled way back in the 60s. Fair game doesn't exist. Well, actually, if you read what Hubbard said, he said, we are canceling the use of the term fair game. We are not changing how we treat enemies of Scientology. So,
And now in retrospect, I can see how familiar Mike Rinder is with all the Scientology policies, which, I'm sure that would come with being in Scientology for those many years, I'm sure that's not just him.
in order to try and deal with the bad public relations that they were getting from this fair game business, he said...
And also, too, wasn't Mike Rinder a public relations spokesperson? So he's kind of talking in third person, you know what I mean? And he's not the only person that does it. And I'm not here to throw shade on everyone, but it's just something to pay attention to, that's all.
And don't use those words anymore, but keep doing the same stuff. So they continue to do the same stuff, and I and others like...
They...
Leah Remini and various other former members of Scientology call that still fair game, because that is what it is.
And there's stuff about you, isn't there? And Leah, there's all sorts of stuff online, and previous ex-Scientologists I've interviewed. There's stuff all about them that Scientologists have written that is slanderous. And what's it like to read that stuff about yourself? And is there part of you? Is it almost like an initiation of leaving? Like, you know, okay, I got my thing.
Yes, it is. I mean, they're pretty proficient at their smears. They have, you know, purchased hundreds, if not thousands, of URLs so that they can have who is Mike Rinder and who is
Purchase URLs. Good to know.
Leah Remini, and Leah Remini sucks, and Mike Rinder's an asshole.com. And they put up routine posts on social media, and they shoot these videos. The vast majority of ones about me come from my daughter and ex-wife, unfortunately, and I talk at great length about that in the book. They are being, you know, observant, obedient, good Scientologists doing what they are doing, reading scripts into a video camera. But what's so crazy about this, Andrew, is they also pay for Google ads. Like, if you search my name, or it was pretty rough to begin with. I was raised like it was almost a preordained destiny for me to go into the Sea organization. My parents were very avid Scientologists, and it was kind of the thing to do, to go work with the founder of Scientology, and that was a very, very sort of prestigious thing to, you know, it was like going to the Vatican and becoming a bishop in the Vatican. I was like at the top. But, you know, unlike walking into the Vatican, walking in onto the Apollo, which was the name of the ship that Hubbard was sailing on.
You know, the Apollo that had all the atrocities happened to the children. Now, I don't know how old Mike Rinder was when he went onto that ship, but he does state he was on there.
Was like, you know, I described the living conditions as like the black hole of Calcutta. It was pretty rough, but Sea Org members are conditioned to accept a lot of physical deprivations in the cause of achieving these altruistic goals of Scientology, these huge, we're going to save the planet.
Okay, this is where he talks about how he left Scientology.
Then, you know, fully believed, and you thought you'd have 1 billion years. You came out, what was it, 52, were you?
Yes.
So then had to contend with the fact that rather than 1 billion, you had a little bit less than that. How did that feel?
I was very relieved. I wasn't looking forward to 1 billion years of doing that shit.
Yeah, but you were out. How exciting. Wow, what an amazing world on the outside.
It was very exciting. I try to describe what my feelings were when I got on the tube, because I was in London and I got on the tube at Warren Street, and I got.
Remember, you guys, now I've never been in a situation, in a cult. I've been in controlling situations. But I just wanted to bring up that Mike Rinder also left his wife and children. But again, I can't imagine what relief it must have felt like to just get out of Scientology. So I'm sure it was a feeling of elation.
From Piccadilly, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling a freedom that I have not felt at any time in my life. Like, literally, I suddenly had the freedom to do, think, say, and be anything that I wanted, and without any restrictions. On the other hand, that freedom is also a bit scary because they didn't know what to do, be, or where to go, or what. As it was like oh my God, how am I going to navigate my way through the world? And
Okay. Mike Rinder is going to he's going to comment on how he feels Tom Cruise should speak up more about the abuses that go on in Scientology.
You guys, and do you then feel like you want to say to certain directors, someone like Spielberg, you don't have to work with Tom Cruise, you're Steven Spielberg, right? You can have any actor, it can be anyone. Would you want to say to them, like, this guy is in charge of a cult that commits abuses?
Well, certainly. I mean, I write about Steven Spielberg and what happened to him and Tom Cruise's efforts, and they all backfired because of Scientology's insane views about psychiatry. And, I covered that in the book. But certainly, I think that journalists and people that work with, particularly Tom Cruise, who is a poster child for Scientology. He has sort of made a thing about how he has credited Scientology for his success, and David Miscavige has lauded him for getting so many people into Scientology and helping to get so many people in. And I believe he has a responsibility to also be truthful about the abuses that are ongoing in Scientology, and that journalists shouldn't agree to interview Tom Cruise on the condition that they not ask him any negative questions about Scientology.
That
I don't even know what to say, you guys. You guys know. Okay, this is about one of the LRH policies.
In their environment until they calm down, and then
it was about psychiatry. He had this big debate, and it's all over YouTube, this video, and he really gets very angry about it. But and I think he even makes some relatively good points about, over prescribing Ritalin and things like that. But what he doesn't say is what the alternative is. He doesn't say, whereas in your book, there's a particularly difficult scene, I suppose, with somebody who's been put inside a room on the boat. So,
yes.
So what is the Scientology line on or what to do with someone who's psychotic?
Well, unfortunately, Hubbard believed that he had invented the answer for psychosis, which is to lock someone up, not speak to them, not have any noise going on in their environment until they calm down, and then you put them on an e-meter and you do particular steps on this e-meter. Hubbard, quote, researched this on one man on the Apollo, and then wrote this extensive dissertation about how he has developed the only method of solving psychosis, and that now there is no longer any reason for psychiatry to exist on planet Earth. And it was all based on this one guy. And why he calmed down, who knows? I mean, he was a raging madman for many days and violent.
I would imagine whomever they're talking about, the man was exhausted, probably thirsty, defeated. That happens a lot of times right before a person expires. They give up. They don't have any fight left.
The terrible, horrible subsequent result of that is the infamous death of a woman named Lisa McPherson at the Fort Harrison Hotel, the Clearwater spiritual headquarters of Scientology, many years later, who was, in theory, being treated for her psychotic episode with Hubbard's, what he called, introspection rundown. And she ultimately went for days and days and days getting no treatment, no real care. And when they finally decided that she needed to be taken to a hospital, they drove her to a hospital.
When they finally decided, who would that be, Mike Rinder?
Hospital 45 minutes away rather than the one that was within a mile, and she was dead upon arrival.
There's that third person talk again. You see what I mean, you guys?
And there is a lot more to this story, and there's a whole chapter in the book about it. And I say in there,
watch his eyes.
You know, this could be the subject of an entire book. I reduced it to a chapter. It is a fairly lengthy chapter, nevertheless, but this is what I was talking about earlier, Andrew, this idea that there is a technology in Scientology, that if you just do the technology exactly as Ron says, it will work 100% of the time. So if you do exactly what Ron says to this woman, clearly in a psychotic episode and in great distress and in physical, a state of virtual physical collapse, but don't go to the doctor. Don't take her to a hospital. Do what Ron says. And what Ron says is blah, blah, blah. And they kept doing, quote unquote, what Ron says. And the net result was she didn't get any other form of treatment. Now, it's possible that she could have died based on she did have a pulmonary embolism that kills a lot of people.
I'm not going to go too deep into this, but the initial coroner's report was that Lisa McPherson died from severe dehydration and severe starvation. It's all on public record. I'm not making up any story. If you go and look it up, that was the first coroner's report. And under pressure from various individuals, the coroner's report was changed. And go and look in to see Lisa McPherson's, what happened to the original coroner. She wound up, I believe she retired shortly after the Lisa McPherson case, and she never practiced again or something like that. And it wasn't that much longer after that had happened to her that she passed away, I believe. You could just go look it up. I think she was very disturbed by what had happened. I don't think there was any foul play with her death, but I think things that had transpired regarding Lisa McPherson's death disturbed her very much. So anyways, I'm going to leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.